Dear colleagues from all over Europe, we were supposed to be all together in the World Heritage City of Paphos by the Mediterranean Sea and to have a rich and inspiring discussion about the outcomes of the HOMEE research project. Alas, due to the global health emergency crisis caused by the coronavirus pandemic, we cannot be physically together, but we can still continue to exchange our thoughts and work together for the promotion of the values of our shared cultural heritage for the future of Europe, thanks to digital means. While hoping that all of you are safe and healthy wherever you are in self-isolation and in confinement, I of course wish to express my deepest solidarity and support to all people around Europe, especially in Italy and Spain, and all people around the world who are affected in different ways by the coronavirus pandemic. Let us pray and hope that we will soon, as soon as possible, come out of this crisis and that we will be able to meet and work together, not just through digital communication, but also in personal meeting. For today and for my keynote speech, I'm finding myself in my hometown, The Hague, in the Netherlands, by the North Sea. And I wish to express my deepest gratitude for all the members of the HOMEE Research Project Consortium for having invited me as the Secretary General of Europa Nostra, the European voice of civil society for cultural heritage, to make a keynote speech for the workshop organized in the framework of the HOMEE Research Project. It was supposed to be a workshop in Paphos. It has become a virtual workshop. I wish in particular to thank, of course, one member of the consortium, one organization, the International Cultural Center in Krakow, and Professor Jacek Purchla for their invitation to contribute in person and through my organization to the HOMEE Research Project. We are delighted. For many years we have been working in a very fruitful way with the International Cultural Center in Krakow. That is also an associate organization of Europa Nostra. We have worked together on a landmark European study called Cultural Heritage Counts for Europe that was published in 2015. And today we also have the pleasure of cooperating within another Horizon 2020 funding project, which is called Illucidare. And this project is focusing on heritage-led innovation and international cultural relations. I also want to pass my special greeting to Professor Jacek Purchla, who is also, I'm glad to say, we are very proud that he is the Vice President of Europa Nostra, and that in this way we can continue to collaborate on many fronts. Just a few words about Europa Nostra. Europa Nostra is the leading and most representative citizens' movement to protect and celebrate Europe's cultural and natural heritage. We have been founded in 1963, and ever since we have been raising awareness on the extraordinary value of cultural heritage for Europe. We have been advocating for cultural heritage towards policymakers at all levels of governments, from local to European and international, and we have been celebrating excellence in the heritage field. And finally, we have been mobilizing to save Europe's endangered heritage. And through all these actions, our goal is to contribute to the preservation and understanding of our shared past, and to take lessons for the present and shape new visions for the future of Europe. Our wide-ranging network of members and supporters include organizations and individuals, professionals and volunteers, all of them committed to cultural heritage in Europe and beyond. And our network counts on more than 1,000 individual members and over 300 member and associate organizations, including non-governmental and professional associations, foundations, museums, universities, public bodies, but also villages, municipalities, regions, and indeed historic and heritage-rich cities in Europe. Let me just mention a few examples. The city of Coimbra in Portugal, the city of Dubrovnik in Croatia, the city of Geneva in Switzerland, just to name a few. And also let me mention some urban municipalities and regions like the Thessaloniki municipality in Greece or Nicosia municipality in Cyprus. Also let me mention that as part of our network we have private foundations dealing with heritage, culture and tourism in urban areas. And a very relevant example for our discussion is the Foundation Novi Sad 2021 European Capital of Culture in Serbia, the country originally come from. Thanks to our wide reach and our very diverse work, we are today recognized as the European voice of civil society committed to cultural heritage. We are also a major civil society partner of the European Union institutions when it comes to cultural heritage. And notably, we run 2 long-standing and successful programs in cooperation with the European Union. The European Heritage Awards, Europa Nostra Award scheme, run in partnership with the European Commission ever since 2002. And more recently, in 2013, we have launched a program called the 7 Most Endangered in partnership with the European Investment Bank Institute. And Europa Nostra is also co-founder and coordinator of the European Heritage Alliance 3.3, an informal platform of almost 50 European and international heritage networks working together to develop joint heritage advocacy actions at European level. What is the importance of heritage for cities and societies of today and of tomorrow? Contemporary Europe is a tangible and living demonstration of how much cities and societies can benefit from cherishing and taking good care of their cultural heritage. I already mentioned before the Cultural Heritage Counts for Europe study, co-authored by Europa Nostra, the International Cultural Center in Krakow, and other European partners. This study provided compelling evidence of the benefits of cultural heritage for our society, economy, culture, and the environment. Let me come back very briefly to this study and share with you some of the key findings. First of all, cultural heritage is a catalyst for sustainable heritage-led regeneration. Let us think of European cities such as Krakow, Lille, and Liverpool. All of them have been European capitals of culture, where initiatives related to historic environments have been developed and thanks to an integrated approach to cultural heritage, have resulted in the regeneration of wider urban areas. Among our awards laureates, there are also many inspiring examples of heritage-led urban regeneration. For example, the regeneration project of the Granger town in Newcastle upon Tyne in England, which received an award in 2003 in the conservation category. This project saw the restoration of the 18th century historic heart of Newcastle upon Tyne to counter urban decay and socio-economic decline, with a strategy that combined heritage conservation and urban regeneration. This is a perfect testament to the role that a high-quality historic environment can play in reviving the life of a city and its inhabitants. Secondly, a second important key finding of our project: maintaining and reusing existing structures also contributes to reducing urban sprawl by basically recycling buildings, which is ever more important given the current environmental crisis due to climate change. Here too, we have many good examples among our European Heritage Awards laureates. Let me start by a project from Estonia, the Tallinn Seaplane Harbour, received the Grand Prix for Conservation in 2013. This project transformed a large abandoned military seaplane harbour into a maritime museum. Since its opening in 2012, it became Tallinn's most visited attraction after the Old Town and the most visited museum in Estonia, and it became also a trigger for further redevelopment and regeneration of the entire area by the sea of the city of Tallinn. Or the project related to the Vanille factory in Rotterdam, prize winner in 2008. This is an extraordinary modern building from the 20s, which was reused and transformed into a workplace for the creative industry, transforming the bleak urban landscape in which it is situated. Third key finding: cultural heritage contributes to the quality of life and provides character and ambiance to neighborhoods, making them more attractive to live, work in, and visit. And to give an example, let me mention the Zsolnay Cultural Quarter in Pécs, in Hungary, created during the European Capital of Culture project in 2010, and now one of the main sites impacting the city's attractiveness and brand. Fourth key finding: cultural heritage combines all these positive impacts to build social capital in European cities. It increases social cohesion as well as citizens' participation and engagement. Our tangible and intangible cultural heritage also nurtures creativity and inspires innovation. The fifth key finding. Sixth key finding: our heritage makes us European, as it is the result of the interaction between diverse populations that have defined Europe. Believe me, there is a European story in absolutely every heritage site and every heritage city of Europe. Key finding number 7. In a globalized competitive environment, European territories can also benefit greatly in economic terms from their unique heritage assets, which generate tourism, attractiveness, ease of investment, and the localization of new businesses. But this shall be done with a main objective of protecting our cultural heritage beyond mere economic exploitation. Of course, I realize that all these key findings today, in the context of the global pandemic and the unavoidable economic and social consequences of that pandemic, resonates in a different way. But at the same time, all these key findings are reinforcing our message also in these trying times, that cultural heritage is a huge asset and that it also needs to be treated like an asset in the plans for the recovery, economic and social recovery of Europe and the world after the pandemic. I mentioned all these key findings, but of course the list of the reasons and the proofs that cultural heritage brings benefits to our society and economy is much longer. Still, even today, some policymakers fail to see or acknowledge all these fundamental findings. They prefer shorter term and payoff alternatives, or see heritage as an obstacle and not as an asset for urban development. They are wrong, because cultural heritage generates major social, cultural, economic, environmental benefits. We have sufficient proof for this. Politicians and other decision makers should start making proper use of this gold mine which exists in each and every city of Europe. Let me now turn the attention to the specific connection between cultural heritage and mega events, such as Olympic Games, Expos, European Capitals of Culture, World Cups, and this is exactly the topic of our workshop. Why does the link between heritage and mega events matter to policymakers and, of course, researchers? That's another question that I would like to try to answer. In the past, many cities have used mega events to attract investment, develop tourism, improve the competitiveness and attractiveness. Until recently, the focus was put primarily on building new infrastructure for sports or facilities for culture to host these events. Recently, some organizers of mega events have shifted towards using already existing facilities, revitalizing them or adapting them for new purposes. For historic and heritage-rich cities, this change, triggered both by cuts in city budgets and by a slower pace of urban expansion, represent an opportunity for development. But it also poses a potential threat to their cultural heritage when this is not correctly understood and implemented. In very concrete terms, mega events like the Paris 2024 Olympics or the Milan Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics represent both opportunities and threats for cultural heritage, depending on what strategy and what concrete action plan will be adopted by organizations responsible for implementing and managing these mega events. Policymakers sometimes have limited awareness and knowledge about this. There and elsewhere in Europe, where events like the European Capitals of Culture and other festivals have been mushrooming. This again, we are talking about mega events. We are, of course, aware that due to the pandemic and the consequences on the pandemic, organization of mega events with large number of people will be a particular challenge. But still, they will be organized, the pandemic will be over, so that's why it is important that now we continue discussing about this very sensitive relationship between the organization of mega events and heritage-rich cities that are hosting such events. In this context, let me mention some considerations with both positive and negative impact on heritage. These mega events can mean increased attention and resources for heritage and cultural policies. For example, the HOMEE research has found that the restoration works carried out in Genova, historic center for the European Capital of Culture 2004, played a key role in the subsequent description of the historic center of Genova in the UNESCO World Heritage List, status that was acquired 2 years later in 2006. A mega event may attract high volumes of visitors, often for short stays, but cities should have the intention to retain tourists over a long period. So always have in mind the longer term perspective. Mass tourism can overcrowd areas well beyond their capacity, while increased transit and pollution can damage sensitive heritage sites. Hijacking heritage for more marketing or economic purposes and overexposing heritage areas can lead to very concrete physical damage to cultural heritage. The authenticity of cultural heritage can be jeopardized, standardizing it into a more easily consumable tourism product and losing its multifaceted, deeper cultural meanings. Let me also mention gentrification, that can physically improve a location's conditions, but also deeply alter the socioeconomic fabric of a certain place and can displace local inhabitants and visitors, not just short-term, but long-term. Beyond physical transformations, these mega events also intervene in the management of heritage through new governance structures and governance dynamics. As it has been found by the HOMEE project, mega events, such as European Capitals of Culture, often result in the establishment of new cultural institutions, enlarging the scope of action of others, sometimes creating a slight clash between these institutions. Mega events can also facilitate public participation in decision-making and stimulate that people take care of their local heritage. So this is a positive outcome of mega events for cities. And again, such a positive outcome can be not just a short-term, but a long-term benefit for the way in which local inhabitants are engaged in the safeguard and enhancement of the heritage of their city. A clear trade-off exists between involving heritage city sites and historic areas in the planning, management, and promotion of a mega event, and the risk of negatively affecting the city's heritage. Indeed, the greatest challenge for European cities which are so rich in cultural heritage is to strike the right balance between safeguarding the integrity and authenticity of cultural heritage on one side and the promotion of urban development through cultural, sport, or other mega events on the other. In most countries, finding this balance is necessary for mega event organizers due to binding regulations in place. But this again is not a smart interpretation of how cultural heritage can benefit cities and societies. Despite these complexities and challenges, very little research and policy reflection is currently available in Europe and elsewhere on this important topic. And the HOMEE project, the EU-funded research project funded by Program Horizon 2020, which is called HOMEE, Heritage Opportunities and Threats within Mega Events in Europe, is precisely seeking to fill that gap in terms of research and gap in terms of policy. And this is why I want once again to congratulate all the members of the consortium for having engaged in the implementation of this important project. Let me stress that there are very important connections and synergies to be built between the mission, action, and objectives of the HOMEE research projects and the mission, action, and objectives of my organization, Europa Nostra. First of all, the HOMEE project addresses an existing gap, as I just mentioned, within and between academic research and policymaking. At Europa Nostra, we are convinced of the vital need of making research relevant for Europe and its citizens and using research for important policy developments. The HOMEE consortium partners, Politecnico di Milano, University of Hull, Neapolis University of Paphos, and the International Cultural Center in Krakow, have been working closely with key institutions and actors with direct responsibility for planning and implementing mega events in Europe. That must have been a fascinating work that you have all together implemented in the previous period. You have studied the cases of the European Capital of Culture programs of Genoa in 2004, Wrocław 2016, Paphos 2017, Matera 2019, as well as the Milan Expo 2015 and the Hull 2017 UK City of Culture. All these cases have shown the complex interaction of mega events in the historic and heritage-rich environment of European cities. In particular, this HOMEE workshop has the following objectives: to engage with key cultural institutions, mega events managers, and other leading experts from around Europe, to examine key issues from past experiences, and to take first steps in developing policy guidelines and recommendations to promote a more sensitive approach to heritage when organizing mega events. And I'm delighted in this way also to contribute to the work of this workshop. These policy guidelines that I've just mentioned, in fact, will become a most welcome charter that will help cities and organizations to anticipate and address the opportunities and threats of hosting mega events in heritage-rich cities. Europa Nostra naturally aligns with part of the HOMEE mission as it deals with showing how mega events, when planned properly and sustainably, can contribute to the long-term socio-economic development of cities that value their own heritage. However, we must also acknowledge the risks and threats of such mega events for cultural heritage. Thanks to the common work of researchers and policymakers within the HOMEE project, Europa Nostra can definitely take a stronger position in advocating for proper respect and care for cultural heritage within mega event planning and implementation. The HOMEE project and this workshop, as well as the charter, the policy charter that will be developed in the coming months, are ways of sharing knowledge and circulating best practices in the heritage field across Europe, which is very much in line with what Europa Nostra has been doing for over 5 decades. This HOMEE workshops offers a unique space for collaboration between academics, policymakers and professionals to apply research in a practical way and to develop and improve policy guidelines that will hopefully benefit cities in the years to come. Let me mention some key points that I hope we will have the chance to discuss during this workshop. Mega event planning in heritage-rich cities shall consider carefully the urban regional context and its specificities in terms of conditions and their potential. We also need to discuss the necessity to anticipate potential conflicts that result from intensified use of heritage assets. Mega events are more politically viable and beneficial to the hosting cities when framed in a shared vision for the development of the city in the long term. Mega events can impact governance structures, and this can be an opportunity for involving heritage actors and strengthening their capacity. Last but not least, mega events can help in discovering heritage. It can help developing new heritage narratives and building new initiatives for the city and its communities. Alas, much too often, mega event decision makers do not take such a heritage-sensitive perspective or leave heritage out of the discussions in the mega event planning. The work that we will be carrying out in this workshop and its follow-up The work that will continue in the coming months will focus on all these important aspects. In short, our big challenge that is, in fact, in front of us is how can we all work together to ensure that cities start using much more effectively the mega events to support, protect, and promote heritage of these cities, the hosting cities, and this in a sustainable and integrated way. How can we ensure that they avoid the risk of undermining or even losing the meaning and authenticity of the cultural heritage? So let us use this opportunity of our workshop to study and analyze examples that can inspire decision makers across Europe and in other contexts around the world through their power of example. Let us make the most of this moment to reflect and learn from what has been done in the past, both to learn from best practices and also less good practices. And let us consider how all this can and should be improved for the future. I wish us all an inspiring and fruitful workshop, and I send you once again my warmest greetings from my home in The Hague in the Netherlands. Thank you.